Evening, Robert. Yes, go on. Can you what, sorry? In cash, you mean? Yes, of course you can. Absolutely. Yes, that's correct. Yes. That's a good question. Bring it up later. You're right. Okay. Okay, mate. Yourself?
Hi, Duncan. John from Weymouth.
Hi, John. Good to have you on the call.
Thanks, mate.
Morning, Duncan. Liz from New Zealand.
Good evening from New Zealand.
Good evening,
Oh,
Duncan.
look at you. This is Mr. Colin.
Hi, Colin. From Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Birmingham, not Birmingham. Birmingham.
Birmingham. Good evening, everybody. If you want to announce your name and just let everybody know where you're calling from as you come on the call. Okay, I'm going to
I think I like the photograph better.
mute everybody in a second. Just bear with me. Stop my video. Okay, I'm going to put everybody on mute. If you want to unmute yourself, if you hold your cursor at the bottom of the screen.
Hello, Duncan from South Africa.
Hi, how are you? Good to have you on the call. I'm just going to put everybody on mute.
Fine, sir. How are you doing? Okay.
Okay, and I'm just going to share my screen. Now, I'd have liked to have shown some new slides Ray Sinclair kindly produced, but unfortunately I had technical issues. So we're going to be having the old slides for now, but still that's the way it is. Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody. My name's Duncan Wood. I've been making a full-time living online and originally through network marketing for originally about 30 odd years. Online mainly for the last 10 years, I think it has been. I've been doing fantastic. I've been with some amazing companies, but I've also been with some disastrous companies. This last year was probably the worst year I've had for a long time. And it got so bad, cash flow was a major issue. And I mean more money going out, a lot more money going out than money coming in. And with any business, that is a serious problem. It got to a critical point. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know which company to focus on. And I was just lucky by a very good friend of mine, John Van Dersen, who messaged me one night and he sent me a video. I did watch it. I didn't watch it properly, I've got to admit. And a week later, he messaged me to tell me he'd been with this company for 16 days at the time. And he had in the bank 56,000. Well, I don't know about you, but I wanted to know why and how he did that. And I wanted to know everything about this system, this crowdfunding system. I'd been involved in a crowdfunding system before previously, so I did prejudge it. But that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't look at anything. Even if you are skeptical, you should ask questions and find out more about it. And that's exactly what I did. I phoned him up, started asking all sorts of questions of why it was unique, what was different about it. By the end of the conversation, I decided this is amazing. I'm going to register straight away. So I joined that night. I sent $29 to the company, and I sent two donations, one 125 to my sponsor, John, and one donation of 125 to a guy I hadn't met at the time or spoken to, a guy called Joe, who happened to be in Canada. Joe was very kind and called me about an hour later. I received a phone call and he introduced himself, thanked me for sending the donation, and started telling me a bit about himself. I asked him the same questions as I asked John. how long had he been with the company. He told me he was the one that introduced John, so he'd been with 50/50 for the same length of time. He'd actually earned less than John, and he'd introduced John, and that tells you one thing. He'd actually received at the time 42,000, but that was still amazing. Anyway, I joined that night. I went to bed, hadn't spoken to anybody, hadn't introduced anybody, woke up the next morning, and there was $250 I had received in my bank. I don't know about you, but I've never been with a business where I went to bed, woke up the next morning, and was already in a break-even position. I started speaking to a few friends of mine the next day, and all I can tell you is one of the best systems I have ever seen out of any type of business I have been involved in, and I've been involved a lot. So what is 50/50 crowdfunding? One of the questions I did ask John was about the owner, and the owner of this company is very experienced in this industry. He's been involved in it and been running another company for the last 16 years. That company is still running to this day. He did sell that company out, but he kept the license for the software and had a plan to generate an even better system, which is exactly what you're about to see tonight. So this company is quite new. It's literally only just over maybe a month and a half old. I lose track of time. But crowdfunding is not unique. If you look on the internet, if you just type into Google crowdfunding, and you'll actually see some of the top 8 companies involved in this industry are a company called Kickstarter, Indigo, GoFundMe, UCaring, Crowd Supply, Crowdfunder, Experiment, and Chuffed. Now, they are the top 8. What is not included in that top 8 is Facebook, as an example. If you look on Facebook are now encouraging people to crowdfund for whatever reason you want. So what is 50/50? It's basically a system to allow anybody to generate donations to use for whatever purpose you might have. It might be to reduce debt. It might be to get out of your job that you hate. It might be to help somebody. It might be to give away. It really doesn't matter. It is just a system to allow you to raise funds for whatever reason it is. So how does it actually work? Well, first of all, 50/50 crowdfunding is the world's first crowdfunding system that allows you to receive half of everything that happens in your donation centers. Normally, you would send a donation direct to one person or one institution. This is split 50/50, hence the name. But that lasts forever. You can literally carry it on. There is one gentleman I heard a story about in the previous company, which is still running, as I said, that started off 16 years ago, donating $100. That's all he ever put in, and he's still receiving donations to this day, 16 years later. So it's based on the world famous Mobius loop, and this is the unique system that this business has got, that nobody else that I know has got it. It is literally, that's what I wanted to know about. What is different about this than any other crowdfunding system out there? And they use the System G technology, which is the most successful 2x2 following me donation centers in history. And that's basically the key to this. Every person that you introduced follows you through, right through the life of however long you are involved, forever. So 50/50 team crowdfunding system is a system that provides help from above and below. So it's not based on just your own efforts. It can be help from above, and I'm a perfect example of that. I went to bed, hadn't done anything. I received 250 without introducing anybody. And you get help from below and from also people that you introduce. Can I just ask whoever that is has got music in the background, if you could mute yourself, if you don't mind. So 50/50 crowdfunding is a peer-to-peer crowdfunding system, and this is the other main point that I began to understand. Probably everybody on this call has been involved in a company that has let them down for whatever reason. It's often bad management. It could be overstating, under-delivering, which is often what companies do to attract you in there. They promise you the earth and then don't deliver. It's always a carrot that never actually happens. Or as an example, I've experienced 2 or 3 companies where they've had major problems with payment processors. In other words, banks, online banks mainly, that have let them down. One company lost 60 million because an online processor went into liquidation and had their money tied up in their system. The whole point about 50-50 crowdfunding is that it's peer-to-peer, person-to-person. It's one person sending a donation direct to you or you to them, and it's to their bank account, not through any middlemen, not to 50-50. In fact, the only money 50-50 takes is the $29, which is once every 6 months. So 50-50 provides you with an easy to navigate, totally automated dashboard. And I don't know a lot about setting up systems like this, but I know a friend of mine, Ray Sinclair, that's his industry, and he will tell you that this system is one of the most sophisticated systems he's seen, and it takes a lot of money, a lot of effort and time to actually put a system like this together that works flawlessly, and it does. Yes, everybody has little issues. It's normally a human error that causes those little issues, but I can tell you this system works flawlessly. It's brilliant. It allows you to display everything in real time and allows you to monitor your donations second by second as it happens. So how does it work? Well, it just takes 3 simple steps. First of all, you need to register from the link that the person that told you about this sends you. The first thing you need to do is to send $29 to the company. And as I said, that's the only money that actually goes to the company. No other funds touches the company. So it is totally separate. It's just literally a company providing you with a system to allow you to receive donations for however long and for however much you want to receive them. So once you've registered, you need to become an active donor. Now, this is something else I liked. The system only allows you to receive once you've donated. If you don't donate, you are literally suspended and you're out of the system. It's as simple as that. So you have to be, we're looking for honest and ethical people who, if you are not ready to donate yet, then don't register yet. Wait until you are ready and then pay your $29 and then you are ready to donate to 2 people. So what basically happens is you donate half, 50-50, half goes to your sponsor and half goes to somebody that you will drop into in a matrix. And that matrix only has 6 places. It's not a company matrix, it's your matrix. So after that, all you need to do then is help 2 people. That's the minimum to do the same. So introduce your first person and then your second person, help them. Obviously, they do exactly the same. They pay the $29 to the company, and then they need to donate to the 2 people they have to donate to and help them do exactly the same. Now, that is the simplicity of this business. It really does not get any more difficult than that. Once you have done that, you've filled each of those 6 donation centers, and it's what's called a cycle. So that finishes, and you can do it again and again and again. Simple as that. So 50% always goes to you. There are actually 5 levels. When I first saw this, I actually asked John a question. I asked him, how much did you start with, John? And he told me he'd started with 7,500. So if you add up the 250, 500,000, 2,000, 4,000, that's what he started with. I personally could not or was not prepared to start at that level. So I asked him another question. And I said, tell me this, could I get to where you are with the minimum? He said, absolutely, you can. And you would never have to put your hand in your pocket again. Because when I first saw this, I thought, oh yeah, this is how it works. You outlay $250, donate it, and then you've got to outlay another 500 and another 1,000 to move up. That is absolutely, totally the wrong way of looking at it. Once you outlay $250, that is the only donation you need to put your hand in your pocket for, because this totally funds you right the way up to the 5 donation centers. So it literally is a self-funding system. So level 1, $250. That's split 50-50. 125 goes to the person that you introduced you, and 125 goes to the person that you dropped under. and you then can receive a total of 6 donations. Remember, I said it's not based on your own efforts. It can be a mixture of somebody above you, you, and people you have introducing other people. Once they have donated, you will receive 6 times 125, so a total of 750 minus the 250. That leaves you with 500. Now you can do that again and again and again, but at any point, if you want to, as well as having the 250 center receiving center open, you could open up the higher level, the 500, so you could have the 500 and the 250. Now, why would you do that? Because basically, rather than you receiving donations of 125, you can receive those and also receive donations of 250. So the 500 level, you receive again exactly the same, a total of 6 donations of 250. So you would receive, when that finished and was cycled, a total of 1,500, plus you'd be also receiving the donations from your 250 level. And so it goes on. You can then open up the next level, the 1,000 level. At this point, you'd be receiving donations of 500 a time, times 6, 3,000 in total. The level 4 level, which is the 2,000 level, at this point, you'd be receiving donations of 1,000. So that's a total of 6,000 for completing those 6 donation centers. And the last one, 5. So you could be running all 5 centers. Now, when I again first saw this, I was in my mind wondering how long it would take me to get to, say, as an example, level 5. Well, I can tell you, I've just been in this business for about, or system for about just over a month. I'm already at level 4 and about to upgrade any day now to the level 5, and that is totally funded from a one-off 250 donation which I sent to 2 individuals. What an incredible business or system. So just to run through things again, there's you introduce your first person, that person sends 125 to you and 125 to your sponsor. You now introduce your second person, the same thing happens. Once that person has donated, they send you 125 and 125 goes up. And then your goal is just to help those 2. So let's take the first one. If you introduce or help that person introduce their first person, that person receives 125 and 125 now comes to you. Now help the second person introduce his first person, 125 goes to him and 125 comes up to you. Then help them introduce their second person, 125 comes to you and 125 goes to, 125 goes to that person and 125 comes to you. That just keeps going until all 6 positions are filled and each position is donated, and you've received a total of 750. Sorry, I flicked the slide there. And that's basically it. That happens exactly the same way through. I'll just run through it again so you can see this. But it's exactly the same system. 6 positions in each matrix, whatever level, whether it be the 250, the 500, the 1,000, the 2,000, or the 4,000, exactly the same thing happens. But in those cases, the 125 becomes 250 or 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 at a time. Now, that is it. It is that simple. So hope you kind of understand that a bit more. We do ask people to make sure that anybody that comes onto this call has watch that 8-minute video that we send out. That is all we do, is get as many people to watch that video as possible. All I do is I ask somebody before I send them the video, when are they going to be able to watch it? Because that gives me a reason and a time to call them back. And all I do is phone them back and ask them 2 questions. 1, did they get the email? And 2, did they watch the video? Now, you only get 2 answers. One is, I haven't had time. And the way I look at it, if somebody hasn't got 8 minutes of their time to spare to watch something that could change their life, then why are you going to spend time trying to explain it to them? All I say, if somebody says to me they haven't had time to watch it, is, listen, I haven't got time to chase you. If you are serious about making some serious money, watch that video and you call me. Now, if they watch it, all I then do is ask them a question. Do you want to know more? Now, the more is, as an example, inviting them onto a call like this. We run these calls 3 times a day. Colin Simmons, who is on the call today, runs one at 11 o'clock every morning. Apart from odd days where he's entitled to have a day off, we'll allow him, we'll forgive him. I also do the same at 8 o'clock at night.
No, he's not.
Most days of the week. And Ray Sinclair, who's quite reasonably new to this, is now running one at 11 o'clock, and that's 11 o'clock every night. So, anybody got any questions they would like to ask? Hello?
Hi, Duncan, it's Colin.
Hi, Colin.
What I'd say to everybody is if you don't want to speak because you may be a bit shy, just type your question into the chat. There's a box at the bottom. It says chat. Type in there, then I'll read it out and Duncan can answer it.
Okay, yes, good point. And if you are on mute and you want to mute yourself or unmute yourself, at the bottom of your screen, you have to move your cursor to see it. You'll see the microphone. That's where you can unmute yourself, or if you have got noise in the background, please mute yourself. Go on, Robert, fire away. You did ask a question before. I'm glad you're asking this. Go on. What was your question? Yes, well, both are possible. Yes, certainly, because it is your responsibility to say whether you've actually received the money or not. So how you receive it doesn't really matter. Just while we're talking about receiving donations, it is taxable. So it is up for each individual to contact their accountant. I'm not going to give you tax advice. I'm not an expert on that, but that's what accountants are for. So just so you know, it is donations are taxable. You need to speak to an accountant regarding that. Sorry, Robert, what was the second question? Well, the answer to your question is yes, there can be, but let me give you an example. If there's a husband and wife situation, is that what you're talking about, Robert? Oh, no. No, you're only allowed one of each donation center running at a time. So when you've finished one, you now need to donate again to start that again. Every time you want to receive, you have to donate. Same way as when you start, you have to donate before you can receive. If you don't donate, you don't receive. So if you want to stop it, you just stop donating, simple as that. Well, yes, you could start with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing to stop you. Now, just while we're talking about that, Robert, you need to be aware, everybody needs to be aware, if you have somebody that is thinking of doing that, now, if you can and you can afford it, my advice is upgrade. If you can't, don't. Don't have to. But this is what's good about this system. Somebody can pass you. As an example, you might be on the 250 level and somebody decides that you've introduced to upgrade to the 500 level. It would mean that you would miss out on that donation of the 250 one time. Okay? Because you've introduced that person, once you have upgraded and you now reach the same level as the person you've introduced, because you've introduced them, they follow you. And you would now pick up from there on all the donations from that person you originally introduced. So if you can, stay ahead of your team and upgrade as soon as you can. Definitely. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, anybody?
Nee, het is wel interessant, ja.
Can I ask whoever's chatting if you could?
Hello, Duncan.
Hi.
Yes, Duncan.
Hi, who's that? Hi, Jamal.
Hello, Duncan.
Hi. Fire away. Go ahead. I think he has problems with his mic. I don't know whether it's internet.
I think so. He's in South Africa.
Yes, I know.
You might want to actually type it into the chat. It might be better.
Yes, probably yes. If you can put it in the chat, your question, it's probably easier, because every time we say go ahead, we can't hear you, unfortunately.
I've got a question for you, Duncan.
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle to explain this business to anybody.
Good question.
What would you recommend? What would they do, even if they've been in for 3 weeks already and they're struggling to actually tell people about it? What would you say they do from today?
Okay, well, don't try and explain it if you struggle to explain it, is the simple question. I mean, put it this way. First of all, if somebody is asking you, well, as an example, if I ask somebody, can you help me? Do you know anybody that wants to make some serious money? And they said to me, well, I might be interested. What is it? First of all, do not try and explain it. That's the worst mistake most people do. The only time you begin to talk about it is when somebody has watched that video. Now, my advice is, if you're new to it, I wouldn't even do it then, because you might not know it as well as maybe some other people know it. There's a saying, a stranger is an expert. I always get my sponsor, John, to speak to somebody on my behalf because he's been in it longer than me. And I introduce them to them and they'll listen to what he says. So use your upline. If your upline isn't helping you, then you need to find somebody above who has a vested interest in you and ask them to maybe speak to that person on your behalf. That's what I would advise, or invite them onto this call. That's what we do these calls for. What amazes me is people come on this call and it's a questions and answers. And I understand some people are embarrassed to come on, but listen, there's nothing embarrassing. Just the way I look at it, if you've got a question, a burning question that's stopping you from possibly having 100% confidence in this business, you need to ask that question and get it answered. Otherwise, it's stopping you from what I call 100% unstoppable belief. Does that help, Colin?
Yep, perfect.
You use other people. I mean, listen, I actually will spend most of my day talking to other people's people. Why? Because that's what I want them to do, rather than trying to explain it. And especially if you're new, it's much easier to bring them onto a webinar, and I can actually show my back office as an example to show how the Mobius loop works, because that takes a little bit to get your head round. You know, a lot of people struggle to understand, well, what happens when that matrix finishes and where is everybody? Because they seem to have disappeared. They haven't. They're just catching up with you. You've got to remember, each person is the start of their own matrix. Now, depending on where they fall in that matrix depends on, and it also depends on the sponsor as to how active that person is, depends on how quickly they come back into your matrix, but they will. It just takes a little bit of time. So any other questions?
I have a question. It's Darlene.
Hi, Darlene.
I have, as of today, I'm so excited, on my 6th day, I have finished my first donation center.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I do see that my sponsor and their sponsor have not, from what I can tell and hear. How does that affect me moving forward?
Well, what you want to do, Darlene, is contact them and help them, because the quicker they fill their matrix, the quicker you will see them back in your matrix again. Simple as that. So they are just slightly behind you. I remember asking John this question. I was receiving donations every day, some days unbelievable amounts. And then one day I didn't receive any. And I thought, oh, it's stopped. All it is understanding what's going on. Remember, every person, wherever they fall in your matrix, they're just one spot in your matrix. From that person down, they have 6 places. Now, it could be that they fell in, as an example, on the top of your matrix, the first 2, one of the first 2, which means if you now introduce somebody, where do they fall? Directly underneath those 2, which helps them fill their matrix, but still below their 2 that you might have filled, there are 4 other places to fill, isn't there? Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking that my next 2, I've got people that are really close. And so I was thinking of calling them and saying, I've got prime real estate here. Who's going to get in?
Exactly. I mean, to be honest with you, you're right. It is lovely when you've just introduced somebody and they just happen to drop in those first 2 positions you've got, because you know that if you now go and recruit somebody else, they're going to benefit from what you've done. Now, even if they fall on the second level, it doesn't matter, because they are still linked to you. So it's worth your while helping them. This is why the minimum is 2 people.
Yeah.
If you work with those 2 people and help them find their 2 people,
Ja, als
it's
ze
going to
mij
happen
onder die
faster.
lijn zitten.
It's as simple as that. It's not
Okay.
hard work.
I also have one more question is, on the side of my screen, I see all the people that are on here, and I can't figure out how to make that go away because it covers part of the screen when you're doing the slides.
You can literally grab it and move it so it's narrower, or you can drop it down. There's a little arrow at the very top, and click that.
Yes. Well, it just keeps going and going until it shows me, but doesn't go any farther.
There's actually a minimized sign at the top of it. You put your cursor very top, you can minimize it.
Well, you know what? It used to have that, and the last 2 times it doesn't have that. So I'm puzzled. I guess
we'll have to have a training on how to use Zoom.
Oh, thank you very much.
Listen, I'm completely new to Zoom. Until I started this business, I'd never done a Zoom meeting. So it was all, and I am not the best on technology. Really, I'm the worst. So if I can do it, anybody can do it, I'll tell you. In fact, my friends say that to me. I'm a test to see how simple a business. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
I tell people the same thing. Because I'm old. I mean, I'm older than most of my friends. And
well, I don't know how old you are, Darlene. I can't see your picture and I can't judge, and I'm not going to state. But I think I'm a lot older than you.
I don't think so. I'm 67.
Ooh.
You're just a youngster, my dear. Much older than you are.
So anybody else have any more questions they'd like to ask?
Yeah, we've got a question in the chat for you, Duncan.
Hello, guys.
Yeah, I'm going to read it out for you, mate. I'm going to read it out for you.
Okay.
The question is...
Yes, Duncan.
Yes, we're just going to answer it now.
His question is, my question is... No, hang on. He says, the question is, when you finish level 1, how do you see that you are done? Is there an indication that shows on the dashboard? Right.
Well, you're a typical example, because we talk about this quite often. When I introduced Colin, in his first day, he took action and in 1 day completed his first cycle. Now, I didn't know, I've not experienced it myself, and nor had Colin, I don't think, at the time. And I actually called Colin because I got a message to say it looked like Colin had re-registered. That's what it looked like. And I called him and I said, Colin, it looks like you've registered again. And he said, I'm out. I haven't done anything. And we suddenly realized it's automatic. So basically, it automatically puts you back into a new matrix. And what you have to do each time a new matrix starts, you have to donate again. So in the same day, Colin received a message to say he needs to donate again to me and somebody that Colin dropped under. And that is somebody different this time. It always changes. It's a movable target. Every time you come back into a new matrix, you'll be in underneath. You'll drop in underneath somebody totally different.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I don't know whether people realise that once you've hit your 750, you have 500 in your pot that is in your profit margin. So when you go on to your next level, you're just using your first 250 that you used before to pay for people, and that money, that 500, is still yours as profit.
Exactly.
So just to let them know.
I mean, let's be realistic. Anybody that's run their own business understands one thing. Every business costs money to start, and then you've got overheads which never stop. So you constantly, it's money in, money out. And this is no different. You know, it's like if you opened a wine shop tomorrow, you need to buy some stock. So let's say you bought 1,000 bottles of wine and let's say you sold a couple of hundred bottles that day. You've made some profit, but you also need to remember that you've got to use some of that profit from the sales to put back in to buy some more stock. It's exactly the same. If you want to keep the donations coming in, you have to keep donating. So you use some of that money that you're receiving in donations to put back in to keep it coming in. Exactly the same as any traditional business. Simple as that. Hope that makes sense.
Actually, to add to that as well, Duncan, because another question I get a lot is that, can you hear me? Yeah. Another question I get a lot is, well, will this continue? Will everybody stop donating?
Good question. Stop? Well, let me ask you that question. Are you likely to stop donating?
Absolutely not. I enjoy receiving donations from all across the globe.
So do I. So I'm going to carry on donating. You're going to carry on donating. I don't know about you, but why would anybody want to turn off the hand that feeds them?
I'll carry on donating.
So will I. Exactly. So
likewise,
everybody's saying yes, that they will carry on donating. So if everybody, to me, that's like if you've got a business and you look after your customers. I can remember actually being a salesperson. It was the only job I ever had, and it was part-time. But I was a salesman for a company that was a printers. And my job was to go out and find new customers. And I pointed out to this guy that ran it, and it frustrated me because he didn't need to go and find new customers. If he'd looked after his existing customers, they would have come back to him time and time again. But he didn't. And what happened was he was losing customers as fast as I was getting them because he wasn't looking after them, wasn't overcharging them basically, and giving a bad service. And what happens then? You have to keep finding new customers all the time. If he'd have looked after them, he would have kept all the customers and they'd come back to him all the time, repeat business. No different than this. If you help people to make to start receiving donations, they won't want to stop donating because they won't want those donations to stop. Simple as that. The only reason people drop out of any business is because they're not making any income. Simple as that.
But it generates referrals, which is really what you're looking for.
Exactly.
You want more people to jump on board as well.
Yes, everybody on this call who's receiving donations, it's like anything that's really good. What you're going to do? Tell people about it. That's human nature. It is. We all want to help other people. The problem is sometimes you're not in a position to be able to help people because you end up having to work and trade your time to go out to work just to earn a crust or a living or just over broke, and we don't have time to go and help people. Well, it's a lovely feeling when you've got the income coming in. You don't have to worry about money, and then you can. There's nothing more enjoyable than helping other people. That's human nature, and this is one of those businesses where you can do that. Simple as that.
Okay, Duncan, we have another question for you, mate.
Yep.
We have a question from Vincenzo. He says, we need a person who can speak Italian to be able to explain and answer the questions for people here in Italy.
Any Italians on the call, or anybody can speak Italian?
On Saturday, we've got the Super Saturday.
Yes, we have. And there is Italian on that. I'm sure there is. I need to check. But yes, you're right. Just so everybody knows, on this Saturday, the Canadian team are doing a Supersonic Saturday, which basically is continuous presentations every 2 hours, I think they are. I need to really look at it myself yet. But that allows you to introduce anybody who maybe wants to hear this presentation in their language, whether it be Chinese, whether it be Italian, French, Spanish. So now's your chance to think about who you know or who some of your team know. My advice is phone up every one of your team members and ask them a question. Who do you know that lives in Spain or Spanish, or who do you know that's French? There's people all over the world. Remember, this is exactly the same and totally legal and operating in any country, anywhere in the world. All you've got to do is think about who you know and who somebody else that you've introduced knows in those countries. Because they could be.
Are they doing it in English, actually, Duncan? That would be good.
Yes. I don't know whether it's American English, Canadian English, or English. I don't know. But
yeah, the thing is, I think that you have to remember we're only 8 weeks old at most. We've
Yes.
already got it converted into Spanish. We know that French and Italian will come very, very quickly. There are quite a few leaders in both those countries all jumping on board now, so we know it's going to be very multilingual. Is that a word?
Yes, lingual.
Multilingual. It'll be multilingual very, very soon. Already you can change the whole website into any language. Well, there's a whole load of languages you can change the whole website to. Germany on its way as well, I hear. So
Yes.
there is a lot of stuff happening around the globe. Could you just remind us all, Duncan, as well, what you do on a daily basis when you share this with people?
Okay.
Is it a conversation that you have, or do you blast it all over the place?
It depends really. I do change it, but there's one thing that was taught to me by a gentleman I'll never forget, because I used to struggle with recruiting. I've been in networking for years, and I had been at this point, but I actually began to dislike it. And the reason was because I kept getting rejected. And everybody hates somebody, especially a friend, saying to you, no thanks, I'm not interested. Now, what he taught me is what to say and what not to say. And I never thought about it. I thought, you know, say if you speak to a salesperson, they think they have to sell something to somebody. If you're not a salesperson, the reason why people don't like or don't think they can recruit is because they think they have to sell it to somebody. It's totally the opposite. You have to be so... In fact, I've had some people say to me, and this is when you know you're doing it right, you're not bothered whether you introduce me, whether I join or not, are you? And the reason he said that was because I wasn't bothered, because I can't make somebody, I'm not going to persuade somebody to do this. They either want to or they don't. Simple as that. All I want to do is sift those people out and find the ones that do want to do it against the ones that thinking about it. So the answer to your question is, the first thing I would say to anybody is write a list of everybody you know or have known in your life. Now, this is going back to real basics of when I first heard and when I got involved in network marketing, but I never actually did it. And the reason why most people don't do it is because they don't do a list of everybody they know. They do a list of people they think would be interested. And that's the problem. That's where a lot of people fail miserably, because if they've got 10 or 20 names on their list and half of those names, when they ask them, say no, the next minute they're already thinking about this is not going to last long because they're running out of names. That's what they think. The objective is to write a list of everybody you've ever known in your life. And I mean everybody. Your mum, your dad, your nieces, your cousins, your aunts, every person you can think of until you've exhausted that. Now, once you've done that list, you never throw it away, because as an example, there's many a times I've said, I've had enough of network marketing. I'm never going to do it again. I even went back to a traditional business, and I regret that, because I then realized it reminded me of why I looked at this kind of industry in the first place. Not that this is multi-level marketing, but this to me is like the perfect business. It really is. But the reason why I was saying that is, I've forgotten where I was getting to on that point. Anyway, getting back to what you actually say, all I basically do is I phone people up and have a conversation with them. I'll phone a friend up and I'll ask them how they are, what they're doing, how's the family, and then I'll ask them just towards the end of the call, I'll say, listen, John, I wonder, could you help me? I'm looking for people who want to make some serious money. Do you know anybody? And shut up, wait. That's the hardest thing, not to interrupt their thoughts. Wait for them to come back with an answer. They'll only come back with two answers. One is, well, I might be interested. What is it? That's what you want them to say. But they also come back with, can't think of anybody right now. And all I reply to that is, well, you know my number. If you come across anybody, give me a call, or pass my number on to them, ask them to call me. And you know what they often say when you've said that is, well, go on, well, what is it? Because they're curious to know what you're doing. But I'm not going to tell them. Even if they said, well, come on, what is it? All I'll say is, give me your email. I'm going to send you a video. When will you have time to watch it? Now, the most important thing I was taught is the follow-up. It's actually more important than sending that video, because the follow-up gives you a chance to call that person to ask them two questions. One, did they get the email? Because you know yourself, emails go astray. If you've written it down wrong or missed one letter out, they might not have got it. So ask them first, did they get the email? If they did, then ask them the next question, did they watch the video? Now, again, you'll only get two answers. One is, yes, I watched it. to no, I didn't. People will give every excuse of why they didn't have time to watch that video. It's only 8 minutes long, and yet people will say, oh, I haven't had time. Well, listen, I just let that person know I haven't got time either, time to call you and chase you. So if you're serious, watch that video, and when you've watched it, if you want to know more, you call me. Take it away from them. That's what I do. It's what somebody taught me is posture. You're making people realize you're not chasing people. I want people coming to me, not me chasing them. You know, I hear people say, how do I persuade my friend? Don't persuade your friend. You know, sometimes there's a saying, you can want things more for people than they want it for themselves. You're testing people to see how much do they seriously want to make some extra money. This is a life-changing business, and you know, you need to treat this like you've just invested 20, 30,000 into it, because the incomes you can receive off this are more than any business I've ever been in that would cost you tens of thousands to get started. And they don't have, I mean, think about it. This business does, or this system does not have any overheads. You don't have to employ anybody. You don't have any overheads of any kind. It is literally the most simple system I have ever seen. So I hope that helps.
Brilliant. Got another question really in the chat. It's from Nicholas. He's Italian, and he's basically saying that he's struggling to understand what's being said. I spoke to Nicholas today. I think what we'll do is he will actually have his own Zooms going on. So he'll have a big team in Italian anyway. So just bear with us for now, Nicholas, is what I would say. Just pick up what you can. And we'll jump on your Italian call as well, and we'll pick up a bit of Italian at the same time.
This is why if you're expanding into other countries, you do need one person that's maybe a leader who speaks the language of that country, that you can basically help get their heads around the system, and then they can take over and then translate it into their language, and then you're up and running. It's very difficult to launch into another country if you're not familiar with the language. I mean, it's great if they've got somebody that can translate for you. I'm actually going to do a webinar for somebody. I don't know whether they're on the call tonight. So I'll be speaking in English, and somebody is going to translate it, and that works. But again, it's quite slow and it's painful sometimes, because you've got to be slow when you're speaking, and then somebody's got to translate it. But that's what you've got to do. Do it.
Duncan, I wonder if I might just step in here for a moment to expand on the brilliant stuff that you've brought to the webinar this evening. As many of the people that know me know that I've been in network marketing or this kind of industry for 35 years. And I just want to capitalize on your comments about making a list and how important that is. We've all got lists, whether you like it or not, we've all got a list. And I know that most people carry those lists around with them every day of the week, everywhere they go. And this is the most valuable tool you will ever have in network marketing, because not only does it contain your list, it gives you a way to talk to them as well, which is really cool. I've often done things where I've been with a group of people where I've said to somebody, they say, I haven't got a list, but I can see they've got a mobile phone. I say, well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you £100 for your mobile phone, right? I mean, why would you do that? I said, because my next big person is in your phone. You just need to find out who it is. And if you're not going to do it, I'll give you 100 quid and I'll do it. So very, very true. Make a list. But it's so important that you've got to work that list. You've got to call that list, because fundamentally, if you don't call the list, nobody's going to go and watch your video. It's as simple as that. And you work the list until it's done. But really, it should never be done for what I'm about to say next. When you're working a list, I know because I've done this myself, and I know you know how people feel. You look at a list and nobody really, at the end of the day, wants to call anybody. I do, because I'm excited by 50-50. But we tend to look at a list and we go, well, I'll call him because I think he'll join, or I'll call her because I think that person will join. Don't make judgments, because all that will do is hinder you and stop you calling people. Just start at the top, call the first person and say, hey, look, I think I've discovered something amazing. Would you go and have a look at this short video? And I'll call you back in 15 minutes, or when will be a good time to call you? Just work the list. start at the top, go to the first person, go to the next person, go to the next person, go to the next person. Now, if you go through life, you meet a lot of people, and I keep adding to my list. In fact, I went to see somebody this afternoon in a hotel. I sat and had a cup of tea with that person, and the waitress came over to serve the tea. She was from Romania. I got talking to her. I said, "Where are you from?" Yada, yada, yada. Within about 5 minutes, I had her email address and phone number. I said, "I've got something it's an 8-minute video. I'd like you to watch it. Would you give me your email address?" I said, "It might help you financially." She said, "Great." So I added somebody to my list simply for having daring to ask somebody for their email address. And I do that wherever I go. I always try and get somebody's phone number or email address because I want to keep my list going. And I've made some amazing contacts over the years, some amazing teams with those contacts over the years, simply because I dare to ask. Now, a lot of people say to me, you know, I get rejection. Well, it's a fact of life that we'll get rejection whatever we do. You know, it's just a huge. And I just really want to touch on that for a moment. I deal with rejection in a number of ways. I'm just going to post a title into the group chat. It is a fact that leaders are readers, and I tend to try and read at least one book a week or as many books as I can. This book, and I've just put in the chat, Reject Me, I Love It by John Furman, was a life-changing book for me. It changed my whole attitude towards rejection. Being somebody who feared rejection from people, I actively go out looking for it now. I hunt it down. The more rejection I get, the happier I am, okay? So when people reject me, I do love it. And what I tend to do with that is if somebody is, you know, I've had a look at this and I don't think it's for me, I immediately get very happy and I go, "Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so pleased." And their immediate response is what Duncan's just done. They're like, "What?" Because, you know, really people want you to be unhappy. They don't want you to be happy. They want to make you miserable. So the fact that you actually turn that around and go, and this is in the book, turn it around and actually be delighted and happy and thank rejected you, their next question will be, "Why are you so happy?"
You're absolutely right.
I say, look, I work on a 1 in 10 basis. I know that if I speak to 10 people, one of them is going to join my business. And I'm going to thank you because I know that's not you now. So I've got to go because I've got to find the other 9. And often you'll find that before you get out the door, they go, "Well, hang on, I didn't say I wasn't interested." And suddenly by taking it away from them, they kind of go, well, hang on. So I then say to them, "Well, the reason you said no, was it because you didn't understand something or I'm sorry, did I not explain something correctly? Is there something I can help you with that?" And often you find you'll get past the one little thing that might be preventing them from saying yes. And all you've got to do is find that little thing. What I also do, say no to me, is I get happy. I say, "Thank you very much. I'm really pleased it's not for you." Who else do you know? Could we just go through your phone list? Is there a few people that you could put towards me that might, and suddenly they can see that you're trying to get around. I call this the swerve. You can see that you're trying to get, and actually that can sometimes change their perspective. They can go, "Well, actually, if he's going to go and talk to all my friends, maybe I want to be in this because," and so on and forth. So that's quite a good thing. The other one that I use sometimes is I'll ring somebody up that I know or I've met. I'll say, "I wonder if you can help me. Like your opinion on something. I think I've found something really interesting, but I'm not quite sure about it. And I really need a valued opinion. I value your opinion. Would you go and have a look at this 8-minute video and give me a call back in half an hour? I'll call you. Let me know what you think." Now, opinions, everyone's got one and they want to give you theirs. Okay? It's just a fact of life. So I leverage that. I let people give me their opinion. So I ring them back and there's only 3 answers they're going to give you. They'll say, "No, it's not for me." And I'll just go, "Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you so much. By the way, do you know anyone?" And I'll try and get round them again. Or, you know, I use the 1 in 10. Or they'll say, "I love that. That's great. Where do I sign up?" That's a fantastic thing. The worst kind of people are the ones going, "Oh, I don't know." What do you do with that? A no is a definite. You can deal with that. You can move forward. A yes is a definite. You can move forward. It's the don't knows. The don't knows, I always just say to them, well, look, when you're ready, come back to me. Or was there something you didn't understand? I'm sorry, did I not explain something correctly to you, or did something in the video? Sometimes you can get past them that way. So the final one I want to give you, which is a really good one that came out of the book, is I'll sometimes say to ring people up and say, look, John, I know this isn't for you because you don't want to earn extra income, but who do you know? So it's the reversal of what Duncan says. You know, I know this isn't for you because I know you don't want to earn extra income. And often before you finish that sentence, they go, well, hang on, how do you know that? Oh, I want to earn extra income. Oh, great. So you're the man I want to talk to. And that can be a great intro. So I just wanted to put some of those things out there for you. I would thoroughly recommend you go and buy that book off of Amazon. It will change your life. So now in my day-to-day, if I'm not getting flamed, abused and rejected, I'm not doing my job properly. That's what I go looking for, because it's a fact of life that if 100 people reject you, 5 or 6 will join your business. I'm not saying that's going to be the numbers, but sometimes you can get 10 people reject you and 9 people join. It's just the way it is. But go looking for the rejection and be happy that you're getting the rejection, because it shows that you're out there, you're talking to people. You know, this isn't for everyone. There are 6 billion people on the planet. We're not going to win them all. Okay. And you have to accept that you cannot every person you talk to into your business, but you will introduce some. The more you talk to, the more rejection you get, the more acceptance and people in your business you will get. So I'd just like to throw that out there. Thank you for a great presentation, Duncan. As always, thanks to Colin for
thank you for your input. And you've just reminded me there of a I hear from a few people. Everybody's been burned by a failure. It's not you that's failed, it's the company that's failed you. Now, I hear this so often. People say to me, oh, well, I've lost credibility. That is a load of rubbish. That's in your mind. It really is. Because everybody on this call has been in a business that didn't work out quite how they thought it would. Now, has that stopped them? What you've got to do is, listen, I've failed more times than everybody else, but I never gave up. I literally, you have to put over the cliff what you've experienced and learn from it and move on. But learn from it, that is the key, and don't give up. So you know, when somebody comes up with an objection like, well, I've lost credibility with everybody because I involved them in a business that didn't work out, unfortunately, you have to learn to fail first before you succeed. That is part of the process of building yourself up. You know, that's what makes people strong. I lost everything in 30 years ago that I built, doing fantastic, and had the rug pulled away from me. Now, I wouldn't like that to happen to anybody, but I can honestly tell you it led me to where I am today. And if that hadn't happened to me, I'd have still been in a trap where I was just taking on more and more staff, working harder and harder, not necessarily making any more money. And I was in a trap I didn't even realize that I couldn't get out of. And in actual fact, I look back and think, thank God I went bankrupt, because what it did for the first time in my life, it got me doing what you said. I read for the first time books like Robert Kiyosaki and realized there is a different way of earning income. And you know what they say, the rich are getting richer because what do? They don't trade time for money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in a job situation are trapped in trading time for money. Here, you can you make money work for you. And the amazing thing with this system is you just start receiving. Yeah. You know that saying, if you give, you will receive.
Exactly. Everything you've said is absolutely true. Something I did go to school, contrary to popular belief. I actually did go to school. But my father was an entrepreneur, and I used to come home sometimes and say to him, you know, my teacher said this or my teacher said that, and my dad would say that's a load of rubbish. And I'd say, well, why do you say that? He said, have you ever met a rich school teacher? Yeah. And I haven't met one yet, because in school they just don't teach you the things you should know. You know, how to be an entrepreneur, how to make money. The education system was created for the Industrial Revolution, so that people could do basic counting and basic English so they could operate the machinery. That's what it was invented for. And your comment about failure is so right. I'm always the day that Edison announced that he'd invented the incandescent light bulb, and a reporter from the Washington Post ran up to him and said, "Mr. Edison, how do you feel about failing 9,990 times?" And Edison looked at him and said, "I didn't fail 9,990 times. I just found 9,990 ways not to do something." and that's it. So, you will find what works for you. But amazingly, in this business, you have great leaders like Duncan and Colin, who you can bounce off of, who are willing to give up their time to do these webinars, to share their knowledge with you so that you can be successful. And, that do that for a living, and they charge thousands, if not tens of thousands sometimes, to get into their seminars so that you can listen to them waffle on about how they got rich. Well, the reason they got rich is because you're sitting in their audience. I'm not saying they're all bad. Some of those are really quite good. But there's a real sharing, caring community here that I'm finding that is willing to give up its time and its energies to help you be successful. So not only is it a crowdfunding platform in terms of finance, it's a crowdfunding platform in terms of the energies of the people in it. And I find that truly fascinating, and I'm grateful for that within this organization.
Thank you for your input, Ray. Colin, there's a few questions I can see, but I see you've been answering them. Thanks very much for that. Somebody asked, which is the strategy that advises us to have positive results? Okay. Great. Okay. Anybody else got any questions before we wrap up and finish for the night? No? Okay.
Well, thanks for the last question,
Sorry?
We'll answer the last question, Sammy, typing it out.
Yes, I noticed that. Thanks for that, Colin.
Which is the strategy that advises us to have a positive results? Thanks. So what you would do to get a positive result with this business?
Does he, I'm not sure what he's referring to. Does he mean when I'm speaking to people?
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Well, the first question,
because he's Italian.
It's getting back to what to say and what not to say. The whole point is it's pointless giving a video to somebody where you haven't even asked them first whether they're even open to looking at anything or interested in earning some extra money. That's the whole point. What's the point? To me, it's like doing a blind mail shot. We've all done, maybe you haven't, but I've done leaflet drops, and I know that 99% of those leaflets are going to go through doors and they're going to go straight into the bin. Nobody's going to even look at them. But they do work. The thing is, you have to keep doing it. Now, it's the same with speaking to people. You're just sifting through people, finding out who is interested in looking and who's not interested in looking. Simple as that. There are various ways of doing it, as Roy just said. You can adapt it either way, but I still use the same method I've always used. I mean, like Ray, I go into restaurants to have a meal, and in the UK, most of the workers in restaurants nowadays are European people. So I always look for an opportunity to ask a question. So when a waiter or waitress comes up to me, I often say to them, "Excuse me, can I ask you, where are you from?" And let's say, as an example, they say Poland. I just reply with, "Listen, you might be able to help me. I'm looking for people in Poland who want to make some serious money. Do you know anybody?" Now, this is where you've got to be prepared. I have a business card ready with me with my name and on an email address, and I just hand them my card because it's the wrong time to be speaking because that person's in work, I'm relaxing, and I just hand them a card and say, "There's my card, give me a call." If they say to me, "I might be interested, what is it?" Now, when they call me, they're going to say something like, "Do you remember I served you in the restaurant, you gave me a business card, I'm just phoning up to ask you about what this business is about." I still don't tell them anything about it then. I say, "Give me your email address, I'm testing them. Will they even call?" Most don't, but some do. And it's those ones that call that I then say, "Give me your email address, I'm going to send you a video." And then they call them back to find out, did they even watch it? I'm testing them. If they watched it, great, they've just jumped another hurdle. So all I'm doing every day is testing people to find out, are they serious? Loads of people say they want to make money. Most don't do anything about it. That's the problem. They talk about it, but talk's cheap. And what I want to see is people action. And the action to me is, will they even watch the video? Will they even call me if I gave them a business card? And then I'm testing them to see, once they've called me, once they've watched that video, will they get on a webinar like this? Will they spend some time studying it, finding out more about it, asking questions? You can't make people do it. You know that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I'm not forcing people. I'm just looking for people who are willing to step up and take some action. That's it. So I hope that helps. I apologize. I forgot to press record tonight. I wished I had, because that was excellent what you just did, Ray. Did anybody record it? Anybody on the call? Robert, did you have to record this? Good on you. You're a star. Good on you, Robert. Thanks a lot. Okay, I'm going to finish now, unless there's anybody else that has a question before we go. No? Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Remember, Super Saturday is coming up this Saturday. It's only 2 days' time, so plan for that. Ask your people who they know abroad, and use that day to just get people onto calls, all done for you. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is plug people into the system. Simple as that. Thanks very much, everybody. I'm going to open up the mics, and you can all say good night.
No, Duncan, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night now.
Good night.
Thanks a lot, Duncan. Yeah.
Good night, Duncan. Thank you.
Good night.
Now, Mr. Ray, Mr. Ray, what is the name of the book?
Good night.